So Elegant Weapons now, the recording lineup had to kind of go their separate ways, busy with other obligations. So you pulled together a touring lineup, and on bass you've got Dave Rimmer from Uriah Heep. Ronnie Romero stays. On drums, you've got Jason's bandmate for about a week, Christopher Williams. Jason fronted Accept for about a week last October when Mark Tornillo fell ill. So how did you find that lineup?
Well, I live just outside of Nashville, and Christopher lives in Nashville. And Christopher, actually, I met Christopher on tour with Priest a few years ago. And Christopher actually laid down the demo tracks on drums for this record with Elegant Weapons. Scott wasn't available, and I wanted to get the ball rolling, get the process started. So I asked Christopher if he could come around and to my studio and put the drums down. And then later on, we went over it with Scott. You know, Scott worked his magic on the tracks. But just to get the ball rolling, Christopher was the guy that did that. So when it came to choosing a band that was going to take this forward, he was the guy. You know, he can sing. He's a killer drummer. I think as well, Jason, didn't he do some vocals when you went out with him?
Yeah, it was amazing because I didn't even rehearse. It was like I got on a plane and the next day is the first gig. It was like, you know, a sound check and then that's it. So I'm hearing all these killer harmonies and I'm going, where the fuck is that coming from? You know what I mean? And I find out that it's Chris like the next day when I'm back there warming, he's up there, you know, hitting these great notes and I'm like, holy shit, that's you?
Yeah.
That's not on page, you know. He's really
got a real
good.
dedication to that side of things, you know. You know, on the Weapons record when we were rehearsing last week, and he's got a real dedication to filling out those harmonies that are on the record. Yeah, you know, which I don't have, or sometimes I'm doing a little bit too much where I can do everything at the same time. So having Chris there playing the drums like he does and filling in those vocal harmonies is a blessing, really.
Yeah.
When you're writing and recording this album, what did you learn about yourself as a songwriter when all the weight is on your shoulders this time?
I definitely work better as a team. Mm-hmm. A lot of this, it started life with me and a producer friend of mine, coincidentally, that worked with Lauren Harris. Tommy McWilliams. So he was the lyric guy in this. So I would do the music and he started off doing the lyrics, you know. So I've got, you know, when you guys probably know it, but you're probably used to it now. When you listen to your voice back on a recorder, it sounds awful. Yeah. It's cringy. You have to get used to it. I still can't get used to, you know, if I write lyrics, they don't sound as good as when someone else writes them. So, you know, I stick to my lane, got Tommy involved, and I definitely work better as a group. Obviously the music on this I wrote all myself, but it definitely goes smoother when there's someone else in the room to bounce it off. So as we go forward in Elegant Weapons' career, we write new songs together. I'm definitely looking forward to bouncing ideas off the other guys and seeing what they bring to the table in a writing capacity, you know?
Yeah. How would you describe the Elegant Weapons album to your fans? A lot of people might think it's an extension of Judas Priest, but I think that would just be lazy. So what would you tell someone who asks what it sounds like?
Well, that's always difficult. And I've had, you know, from the first single, I've had people say they can hear Scorpions in there, which is totally, you know, I didn't hear that, you know. So my point is, you can have an idea of what it sounds like yourself, but people perceive it differently, you know. As I said before, I'm not afraid of my influences. So there's Black Label in there, there's some Priest in there, there's some Hendrix in there, some Sabbath and some Ozzy, you know. But it's kind of, as I said before, I come from a legacy band in Judas Priest. So I think to do anything, as you said, that sounds exactly like Priest would have been pointless. So I wanted it to have its own legs and have its own character. So I think it does. I think it's a bit more bluesy. It's a bit more hard rock rather than screaming heavy metal. There's, you know, a couple of twists and turns in there, but it's rooted in the DNA of the bands that I come from, for sure, and hopefully takes it forward into 2023.
Right.
Very well-rounded record, in my opinion. I listened to probably 7 of the tunes. I was shocked to hear Lights Out
Yes.
That was a nice surprise, and that sounded amazing. Ronnie sounds amazing. He fits your riffs quite well with how you're describing it, and even someone hearing Scorpions in that. I didn't hear that upon first listen either, but when I think about the it's like comfort food. It's like food you love when the next section comes or the next song, and I feel like that might be coming from a flow in your writing, how you know how you put riffs together. How the next thing is, okay, what am I going to say now with a different song? Ronnie's fitting that. He's doing great. I like the lyrics too. They're not really hardcore, or like you said, it's not brutal metal in any way. It's very soothing, yet still has some balls, you know?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, really. You know, when I put these songs together, as I said before, it comes from my influences as a guitar player and as a musician. And it's 70s, 80s, and early 90s heavy metal and rock, you know, some 60s in there. And I think it was the same with Ronnie's voice. You know, I can't speak for all his influences, but as you said, it's like a comfort food where we know this type of voice. It's something that we've grown up with, and it's the soul of the past, but he's also pushing forward in the future. So I heard Ronnie on these songs, and I heard more of Ronnie Romero in there. And I think he'd agree with me. You know, I think there's more of Ronnie in there than I've heard before. So the more we do it, hopefully the more that comes out. But I think you're right. It comes from the same place as I do as a writer and a guitar player. You can hear where it comes from, and you can hear where he comes from. And we're all familiar with that, and hopefully get the balance right between where it comes from and where it's going.
Yeah. And in creating something fresh as well as comfortable.
Hopefully,
Comfortable future, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a 43-year-old man from, you know, grew up in the 80s. So
yeah,
I am who I am, you know what I mean? So I didn't want to do anything contrived and force anything modern. It's who I am, and whatever comes out of that is perceived by the listener, and hopefully they like it.
Yeah. I for the record, I heard a little bit of Graham Bonnet in Ronnie's voice. And my favorite tracks so far, I've only listened to the record. It was only available to me through the label yesterday. But the cover of Lights Out is great. I mean, it's amazing. And I like Do or Die. To me, it has a bit of a Freewheel Burning vibe. But that's really the only thing that I hear an extension of Priest. The rest of it, as you say, is a sort of a conglomeration of all your influences. So
I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head there. And that was actually a song that I had a conversation with Andy about, and I didn't know if it was too much of a Priest influence. But, you know, from what Andy said, and I agree with him, why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't there be a song on there? I've been with the band almost 13 years and toured and written with them. Why wouldn't that be like an intimate part of my DNA now?
Sure.
So put it on there, you know, maybe that will kind of evolve out. Maybe it will grow stronger. Who knows? But it was natural and organic. So why not put it on there?